At Charity Charge, our mission is to power yours. Most banks and financial service providers weren't built for nonprofits. They don't understand your structure or how you operate. That's why we exist. We proudly serve more than 3,000 organizations across the U.S., offering tools built exclusively for the sector. From credit cards and expense management to bookkeeping and gift cards, every solution is designed to help you minimize operations and supercharge your impact. And we're more than just financial services. We're an educational community. We share resources every day on our podcast, blog, and webinars to help you stay informed, compliant, and empowered. Visit charitycharge.com to learn more and join the community. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Nonprofit Spotlight series. This is Grayson Harris, and today we are joined by Rebecca Tallman. She is the Executive Director of the Veterans Community Project of St. Louis, and they are doing incredible work really helping provide transitional housing for veterans across the nation and obviously within St. Louis as well. Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Grayson. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yes, and well, can you tell me a little bit more about the work of the Veterans Community Project and the impact that it's making on the veterans across the United States?
Yes, absolutely. I'm excited to. So, Veterans Community Project is a nonprofit organization that was founded in Kansas City by a group of combat veterans who saw some gaps in the system that they believed they had a very innovative way to address. And they got together and created Veterans Community Project in Kansas City. And then, as they saw that model working, the transitional housing using tiny homes there in Kansas City, they expanded into multiple cities. And I'm fortunate enough to be a part of the St. Louis location. But we also have Longmont, Colorado, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, as well as we've broken ground in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we're breaking ground in Glendale, Arizona. So, very exciting things happening all over. Here in St. Louis, we have a total project of 50 tiny homes that we'll be building here. We are currently in phase two of our construction and finishing up some of our homes in phase one, but it's really exciting. We started here in St. Louis in October of 2023.
That is incredible. And from what I understand, you've been there from the start in terms of 2023. I think back in 21 is whenever you first got involved, right?
It is, yes. So in 2021, when I found out that Veterans Community Project was coming to St. Louis, I actually learned about the project when I was still serving in the Air Force active duty. Stationed in California, I saw a news article about Veterans Community Project on CNN Heroes, and I said, I have to be a part of that. And one day here in St. Louis, I saw one of the tiny homes and got excited and became a volunteer then. And I worked at multiple different levels in the organization before becoming the executive director in March of year before last, I believe it was.
I'm so happy you mentioned because I was going to ask in terms of your military experience and the fact that you were a veteran yourself. What has been surprising to you as you stepped into this role as executive director in terms of maybe what the community didn't realize that this resource is here to provide?
So I would say that for me, what's been surprising is just that you change your perspective on things. I've grown so much over my time of leaving the military and becoming the executive director here, but I feel incredibly fortunate to be able to do what I do. I truly love my job and helping other veterans. But I think one of the biggest surprises is that the misconception that there's services out there. And even though there are numerous services out there, not all of the services work. Not all of the services are the best. And some people don't qualify for those services. So that's the amazing thing that makes Veterans Community Project different is that we serve any veteran, regardless of time in
Mhm.
service, type of service, or discharge status, which oftentimes people think just because you signed on the dotted line, you qualify for services with the VA. And not everybody does. If you served in the National Guard and were never federally activated or served less than 2 years or had a dishonorable discharge, you don't qualify for services. And so that's what we're here to do. But it's just amazing to see what we get to do every day and what we get to be a part of.
I really appreciate you sharing that. And something that we speak to on the show all the time is that, nonprofits fill gaps that are left by the current system, be
Right.
that the government, for profit entities, or other nonprofits themselves. And something that's been happening this year as well, and I'm sure you really felt this within the community for veterans, is that that gap is increasing. And the funds, this task that we have to find the funds to
Yeah.
support the needs of our communities with the nonprofit space is also shrinking. So, can you tell me a little bit more of what goes into the strategy within the organization as you look and you're looking to fill the needs for your veterans?
We are a very collaborative agency. We realize that not one agency is going to be able to fix veteran homelessness. And, with close to 40,000 homeless veterans on the street every night across the nation, and that we classify homelessness as different. It's not just street homelessness. We're talking about people who are couch surfing, sleeping on
Mm.
someone's couch in their family or a friend, which is not secure. That's not housing. It's a warm place to sleep, but that doesn't mean that it is. But we are all about collaboration. So, how can we work with the different agencies that do things to make that funding go as far as we can? And work together so that we can do the best for the veterans. But like you said, the need is growing. It continues to grow and the funding is shrinking because there are more nonprofit agencies, government funding is being cut. And so one of the things that we see a lot here at Veterans Community Project is we see other nonprofits or government agencies bringing veterans to us because they're unable to help them. And so it's truly an honor when another agency brings a veteran to us or another veteran brings a veteran to us. I think that's the biggest compliment because that means that they've been happy with the service they've gotten. But I think that each and every one of us in this agency treat someone the way that we would want to be treated. And that's with dignity and respect. And I think that's so incredibly important as we're serving our nation's heroes.
I love that, living the values, that you would want to be treated as well. And can you
Yeah.
walk me down what the path of a veteran that comes, into your door and that journey that they go on in terms of coming into that transitional housing, and then how
Mhm.
you, also sustainably support them, kind of for that long-term, permanent home as well?
Yeah. So the great thing about Veterans Community Project is the fact that our agency looks at that a cookie cutter approach is not going to work in every city. So all of the cities that I mentioned that we go into, first we assess what the services are available in that city, and then we assess what we can do. What we're most well known for and what we'll have in every single city is our transitional housing projects. Our transitional housing projects are different sizes depending on what the need is in each of the cities. So
Villages, right?
correct. Yeah, our villages. So in Kansas City, we have 49. In St. Louis, not that I'm competitive, we have 50 or we'll have 50 when we're done. I need to be careful saying that. All of a sudden, maybe it'll be 49 if I'm not careful. And then, we have 25 in Longmont, 26 in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So really, it's about what are the needs for that. So here in St. Louis, we're very fortunate. We're one of the ones that has an outreach center. So here at our outreach center, any veteran can walk through the front door and receive services. Our outreach program has served 500 plus veterans since opening the doors in 2023. And we do everything in our outreach center from food boxes, snack packs, hygiene kits, resource referrals, emergency assistance funds. But that's where every veteran starts for us. We also do street outreach. We have referrals from other agencies. So when a veteran comes to us for a housing need, we assess what that housing need is to make sure that our program is a good fit for them because what's important to us is we set that veteran up for success. So we want to make sure that we're doing the best by them. And that's where that collaboration comes into.
Mhm.
Maybe we're not the best program for them, but we'll never say no. We'll say, we're not a good fit at this time, but this agency is. So that's where those partnerships come in, right? Setting them up for success. But if someone is a good fit for our program, then we move them into our housing program. Again, transitional, tiny homes. Our tiny homes come fully furnished. Everything in that home is that veterans from the time that they move in until they move into permanent housing. They can take it with them refrigerator, stove, bed, TV, everything.
I love
Pots,
that
pans, silverware. Yeah. Because
because
we would
then
never
all of the
want,
stuff that's so hard about moving into
right?
that permanent home, you're providing.
Yes,
And they're also
absolutely.
used to it too, so it feels like a little bit more like home, I'm sure too.
Right. We wouldn't want a veteran to work so hard to move into permanent housing and then they're sleeping on the floor of that place, right? So we want to
Yeah.
do what we can to provide services. And then what's important about our program is those wraparound services. So we never have more than a 10-to-1 ratio. So for every 10 veterans we have in a village, one case manager will be working with those individuals. And during that time, they're meeting with them weekly, biweekly, twice a week, depending on the individual, because everyone's an individual and has different needs. And we're working with them in different areas that we believe are important to make sure that permanent housing is a permanent fix. So we have our transitional program because we are very diligent about the funding that we take. We will not take funding that limits the veterans that we serve and how we serve them. So our transitional program is dependent on that individual. And so we're just walking that journey with them, but it's up to them to do the work. We're just helping navigate what that looks like and making the resource connections that help them get to that point. So it's really exciting. Across VCP, we transitioned hundreds of veterans into permanent housing. Here in St. Louis, we've had 5 veterans move into permanent housing from the time that we've started this program. Every month we're moving veterans into homes and transitioning veterans into permanent housing.
Thank you for sharing the journey,
Yeah,
that a veteran that comes into your door faces, and as you spoke to, it's every single one of them is unique,
thank you.
and having
Yeah,
those, those services able to be adaptable to their individual needs is so
right.
important. A piece that you briefly mentioned that I think goes into that is the funding component. And you also
Yes.
said, saying no to funding that is not in
Yeah,
line with those missions and values. And that is one of the most difficult challenges that you can
it
have as a
is.
nonprofit leader. Can you explain what goes
Right.
into a good funding partner, and
Yeah.
and how do you kind of enable a collaborative partnership that's going to be supportive of the mission of the VCP.
Absolutely. So I think any funding partner can be a good partner, but it's important. It's one of the reasons that we don't take a lot of government funding because it will dictate how long a veteran is in our housing. And it won't allow us to serve those veterans that have a negative discharge or were in service for less than 2 years or National Guard.
Right.
So we know other agencies are there to help support individuals that don't have those situations. We're, again, filling that gap. It's not the only gap that we're filling, but that's part of it. But it's important that when we're talking to funding partners that they understand the services that we provide to our veterans and how we're providing those. And communities are middle name for a reason. We consider not just our residents, not just our veterans in our outreach center, not just our staff or our volunteers, but also any of our funding partners are a part of this community. We are a community that are wrapping these veterans in support and love to be able to go on that journey. And I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier on how we treat our veterans. But one of the things that I've heard many of us say and that I've learned over the years is it truly could be any one of us. Any one of us are one decision away from being in this situation. There's misconceptions out there that it's mental health or drug use, but that is not a majority of the veterans that we serve. It's just decisions that were made that maybe weren't the best decisions. And so we're working with these individuals to go on that journey with them and understand what that journey is. And so I would say that all of our funding partners are on that journey with us as well.
I love that. Speaking of that journey, October marked 2 years since you welcomed the first veterans within the community there in St. Louis. As we've come past 2 years, it's a time of celebration and also looking to what 2026 brings. What's got you excited about the future for VCP of St. Louis?
Wow. I think everything's exciting about the future of VCP St. Louis. But right now, just started phase 2 construction right before October. So, phase 1 construction is 20 homes, and we're completing the interior of those homes now to get us to the
Okay.
full 20 of being able to provide that occupancy. But we just had in phase 2, which is 16 additional homes, the walls and the roofs of those homes are going on, and so seeing that construction, knowing that we're going to be able to help more veterans here in St. Louis with that transitional housing piece. But I think as I look back on the 2 years and as I look forward, I just think that we are making generational changes,
Mm.
and I share with just shared with staff again yesterday. I share with when I go out and speak that, there could be 4 or 5 generations from now of children that we've impacted that maybe they don't know anything about us and we don't know them, but just to know that we've changed their path because of the involvement that we've had
An
with the
entire
veterans
family.
that we've helped. Absolutely.
I really appreciate you sharing that generational impact that can come whenever you're,
Yeah.
solving such a foundational component of, human life, which is that housing. And as we come to the end of our conversation, how can our community get involved with the work of the VCP?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that. I would say that please take a look at what we're doing out there in the many different cities that we're already in. If we're in a city that you're in, we're always looking for volunteers, for funding, for being a part of that community and that family. If you're in that city, please tell any veterans that you know to walk through our door. Doesn't just have to be individuals that are struggling. Any veteran can walk through our door because you never know what you need until you know. And we want to be able to provide that. And then if we're not in a city that you're in, still, please, you never know. If we could come into your city, check out what we're doing out there. When you're thinking about giving, we would love for you to be a part of this journey and join us. And we need that funding to be able to help more veterans.
100%. Rebecca, thank you for coming on and sharing more about the approach that you have in supporting veterans of all walks of life and really creating these unique services and impact to support their needs as well.
Thank you, Grayson, for what Charity Charge is doing and getting the word out there and getting to know our story and putting our story out there. We truly appreciate it.